Picture this. It's the end of the day. You are collapsing onto your couch, completely drained to the bone.
Oh, yeah. Just totally exhausted.
Right. From being relentlessly, intensely busy since the absolute second your alarm went off, you haven't stopped moving.
Not even for a minute.
Exactly. And yet, as you sit there, staring at the ceiling, you have this sinking, incredibly uncomfortable realization
That you didn't actually do anything.
Yes, absolutely. Nothing important actually got done today.
It is a violently universal experience, honestly. You feel like you've been sprinting on a treadmill at, maximum incline for 10 hours.
Ugh, the worst feeling.
Right. And then you step off and realize you are standing in the exact same room, looking at the exact same wall. You've expended all this energy, but you haven't actually traveled anywhere.
Exactly. And that frustration, that specific gap between how hard we work and how little we feel we've actually achieved, that's exactly what we are pulling apart in today's deep dive.
It's such a crucial topic.
It really is. We're looking at the core architecture of time management, habit building, and really just getting our brains back. And this is all grounded in a really sharp narrative source we have today called The Art of Doing What Matters Most.
Yeah, it's a great read. Really insightful.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the modern worker's brain, we have to look at how we process information. We operate remarkably like a web browser that has 100 tabs open at the same time.
Oh, man. I know that feeling.
Right. You know that sound your computer makes? The battery is draining, the internal cooling fan is spinning like a jet engine, the RAM is completely maxed out.
Yep, it's about to take off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you look at the actual screen, the page you need isn't loading.
That analogy hits almost too close to home.
I thought it might.
Well, the reason it rings so true is that it perfectly illustrates a neurological trap we all fall into. We basically confuse activity with accomplishment.
Because we're busy.
Exactly. Because the internal fan is spinning, because our heart rate is up, we're stressed out, and we are rapidly clicking between Slack and email and a spreadsheet. Our brain genuinely believes we are doing something highly valuable.
Wow. So the effort tricks us.
Right. We equate the friction of the effort with the value of the output.
Yes, the friction. If it feels hard, it must be productive, right?
That's the lie we tell ourselves, yeah.
But to figure out how to escape that trap, we need to look at a classic archetype from our source material. Let's talk about the guy who embodies this perfectly. We'll call him Noah.
Noah, yeah. The classic case study.
Right. He is our stand-in for the highly ambitious, completely overwhelmed modern professional.
And what's crucial to understand about this Noah archetype, and I think a lot of people will relate to this, is that his problem isn't laziness.
Not at all.
It's the exact opposite, actually. He wakes up every day with fantastic intentions. He wants to knock out a major project, learn a new skill, go to the gym, and, have an hour to actually read a book.
On paper, it is the perfect day.
Perfect day.
But the reality is a complete train wreck. And it always gets derailed by what is fundamentally the most dangerous phrase in the English language.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Just for a minute.
Yep, there it is.
Noah sits down to tackle that big, intimidating project. He feels a tiny spike of anxiety and he thinks, let me just check my messages just for a minute. Let me just clear my inbox so I can focus.
And then it's gone.
Right. Suddenly, 45 minutes have just evaporated into thin air.
What's fascinating here is the underlying neurology of that specific phrase.
Break that down for us.
Well, when you tell yourself just for a minute, you are actually trying to bypass your own cognitive defenses. You're trying to convince your prefrontal cortex that this isn't a distraction, it's just a tiny, harmless detour.
Just a quick pit stop.
Right. But here is the reality of the modern digital landscape. The notifications, the endless scroll, the infinite feeds, they operate on what psychologists call a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement.
Like a slot machine.
Exactly like a slot machine. You pull the lever, meaning you open the inbox or the app, and you don't know if you're going to get an urgent request, a funny meme, a piece of good news, or absolutely nothing at all.
The unpredictability.
Yes, that unpredictability spikes your dopamine. So when you open that door, just for a minute, you are fighting against literally billions of dollars of engineering designed specifically to hijack your attention.
That's terrifying when you put it like that.
It is. You don't decide how long you stay. The algorithm does.
And even if Noah manages to pull himself away from his phone, the environment itself is fighting him. I mean, he's trying to write a report, but an email pings.
So he answers it.
Right. Then a coworker sends a chat. He replies. He's constantly switching contexts. And by 5:00 p.m., he is that guy on the couch, exhausted, burnt out, asking himself, what did I actually do today?
Well, let's talk about why he's so exhausted, because it's not just the physical time he lost to the interruptions. It's a concept called attention residue.
Attention residue. Okay, explain that.
So when you switch from writing a complex report to reading a two-sentence email, your brain does not cleanly pivot.
It doesn't just let go of the report.
No, exactly. A significant portion of your cognitive processing power stays stuck on the original task. And then when you switch back to the report, a piece of your attention is now stuck on the email you just read.
So you're dragging it with you.
Right. Every time you switch tabs in your brain, you leave a residue of attention behind. If you do that 50 times a day, your brain's processing power is sliced so thin that deep, meaningful work becomes functionally impossible.
Wow.
You are exhausted because your brain is trying to run 50 incomplete programs in the background.
Okay, I hear that, and the science makes total sense, but I really have to push back here.
Sure, go ahead.
We're talking about this like Noah has a choice. Isn't this just the undeniable reality of modern professional life? We have to be responsive. I mean, if my boss emails me, I can't just ignore it because I'm avoiding attention residue. Clients expect immediate replies. How are you actually supposed to function? Let alone keep your job without multitasking and constantly monitoring your communications.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is the exact defense mechanism we all use to justify our chronic busyness.
I have no choice. My job demands it.
Exactly. But we have to untangle two very different concepts here. Being responsive versus being accessible.
Okay, what's the difference?
Being responsive means you are a reliable professional who gets back to people in a timely, predictable manner. Being accessible means anyone can insert themselves into your brain at any given second of the day.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
It is. A lot of us think our bosses want us to be constantly accessible, when in reality they just want us to be reliably responsive. And to prove that this frantic, always-on multitasking isn't actually a requirement of the modern workplace, our source introduces the antithesis of Noah.
His colleague, Emma.
Yes, Emma.
Emma operates in the exact same environment as Noah. Same company, same boss, same hours. But she gets completely different results. Where Noah is scattered and frantic, Emma is remarkably calm.
It's night and day.
And the kicker, she finishes her highest priority work on time every single time and goes home completely unplugged.
She is living proof that the chaos is, to a large extent, a choice. It's a default setting we've accepted, not some law of physics.
So naturally, Noah observes her for a few days, realizes she's playing a completely different game, and finally just asks her what her secret is.
He has to know.
Right. And she drops this incredibly quiet yet profound truth bomb on him. She says, time management is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a massive paradigm shift. Most of us approach our day trying to figure out how to do everything faster.
Right, like how can I clear these 50 emails quicker?
Exactly. How can I speed run these tasks? But Emma's saying the game isn't about speed. Speed is irrelevant if you're running in the wrong direction.
Wow, so true.
The game is entirely about selection.
And she doesn't just leave him with a motivational quote. She actually gives him her framework, and it's built on a few very rigid rules.
Very practical stuff.
Yeah. First rule, she plans the next day, the night before, every single evening.
Which eliminates decision fatigue in the morning.
Right.
When you wake up, your willpower is at its highest.
Mm-hmm.
If you waste that premium cognitive energy just trying to figure out what you should be doing, you're draining the battery before you even start.
Exactly. But it's her second rule that really stopped me in my tracks. She tells him that when he plans his day, he is allowed to choose exactly 3 important tasks.
Just 3.
Not 10, just 3. And he has to focus on them one at a time.
The power of 3.
Oh, wait, let me pause here again. Only 3 tasks. I mean, if I look at my personal to-do list right now, I've got at least 15 or 20 things on there.
At least.
And they all feel urgent. Limiting a daily plan to just 3 tasks feels almost negligent. If I only do 3 things today, I'm dropping the ball on 12 others.
You're touching on the single hardest part of this entire philosophy. You are confronting opportunity cost.
Yeah, the FOMO of productivity.
Right. Yes, you have 15 things on your list. But let's be radically honest. Are all 15 equally important? Do they all move the needle in your life or your career equally?
Well, no, of course not.
Exactly. Emma's framework forces you to stare that reality in the face. When you restrict yourself to 3 tasks, you are forced to prioritize ruthlessly. You have to separate the signal from the noise.
But what about the other 12 tasks? Do they just pile up?
This brings us to the concept of the Eisenhower matrix, or even Warren Buffett's famous 5/25 rule. The idea is that the most dangerous items on your to-do list aren't the completely useless ones.
Because you just ignore those anyway.
Right, to ignore those. The most dangerous items are numbers 4 through 15.
The middle of the pack.
Exactly. The things that feel productive, the minor chores, the easy emails. They're just important enough to justify doing, but not important enough to actually change your life or your trajectory.
Oh, wow.
They are the comfortable busy work that masquerades as actual work.
Which leads right into Emma's final and arguably most difficult piece of advice. She tells Noah he has to learn to say no.
Ugh, the hardest word.
Especially for Noah, because he is a chronic people pleaser. He says yes to absolutely everything.
Can you take a look at this slide deck?
Yes. Can you jump on this quick brainstorm call? Yes. Can you handle this minor side project? Yes.
And this raises an important question. What is the true cost of saying yes? When Noah says yes to every minor request from a coworker, he isn't magically creating more time in the universe.
No, the day is still 24 hours.
Right. He is implicitly saying no to his own top 3 priorities. He's sacrificing his deep work on the altar of being perceived as helpful.
Okay, but let's talk mechanics for a second.
Hi.
How do you actually say no to your boss without getting fired?
Fair question.
I mean, it's easy to preach boundaries, but in a corporate hierarchy, a flat no doesn't usually fly.
That is a critical nuance. You don't just say, no, I'm protecting my peace.
Right, you can't say that to the VP of sales.
No, you'll be out the door. You use the yes-if framework. When your manager comes to you with an urgent new request, you pull up your list of 3 priorities and you say, yes, I can absolutely take on this new project. To make room for it, should I pause priority 1 or priority 2?
Oh, I love that. You're not refusing the work, you're making the trade-off visible to them.
Exactly. You are forcing them to participate in the opportunity cost. Most of the time, when a boss sees what has to be delayed to accommodate their random request, they suddenly realize their request wasn't actually that urgent.
That's brilliant. So understanding this philosophy intellectually is easy, but actually breaking the addiction to distraction,
Much harder.
actually stepping away from the chaos and rewriting your default behaviors, that is incredibly hard. So how does someone like Noah actually implement this without falling right back into old habits by 10:00 a.m. the next day?
The transition from theory to practice is always where the friction lives. And it starts with a very specific, seemingly small choice Noah makes that very evening.
Right. Noah decides to try something genuinely new. Usually, he'd be engaging in his evening doom scrolling, laying in bed, absorbing endless blue light, watching his anxiety spike.
We've all been there.
Oh, definitely. But this time, he forces himself to physically put the phone in another room. Instead, he grabs a book.
A physical book?
Yeah, and specifically, a book of short stories in a foreign language he's been wanting to learn. I think the source mentions he reads short stories in English for Beginners, the teach yourself version.
Right.
He reads just one short story. Then he closes the book, grabs a piece of paper, and writes down his 3 tasks for tomorrow. Nothing more.
He is immediately implementing the evening planning rule. But more importantly, he's replacing a draining habit with an enriching one. You can't just delete a bad habit like doom scrolling. You have to overwrite it with a new behavior.
The real test, though, happens the next morning. Noah sits down, looks at his list of 3 tasks, and commits to tackling the first one. No multitasking, no email, no phone.
And it's awful at first.
It really is. The reality is it doesn't feel good. It feels agonizing. His mind desperately wants to check his phone. The physical urge is just overwhelming.
Oh, of course it is. This is what we call limbic friction. The neural pathways built by years of chronic distraction don't just magically vanish because you wrote down 3 tasks on a piece of paper.
Right. The brain still wants the slot machine.
Exactly. His brain is screaming for that dopamine hit that comes from context switching. The crucial difference today isn't that the urge is gone. The difference is that he observes the urge and chooses to stay focused anyway.
And he pushes through it. When he takes his scheduled break, instead of jumping onto social media to reward himself, he reads another short story in that foreign language.
Yeah, the book Learn English Through Stories. 16 stories to improve your English grammar and English vocabulary.
What a title.
It is, yeah. But the concept is solid.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the metaphor playing out here in the source material. He's using language learning as the vehicle to rebuild his attention span. And the core lesson he takes away from the language practice is this: small actions Repeat it every day, create big results.
It is the perfect parallel.
Think about it. If you want to learn a new language, you cannot do it by cramming for 10 hours straight on one random Sunday every month.
No, you'll forget everything by Tuesday.
Exactly. The brain literally cannot encode information that way. It requires small, consistent, daily exposure. 15 minutes today, 15 minutes tomorrow. That's how fluency is built.
Consistency over intensity.
Right. And productivity, attention span, the ability to focus deeply, these aren't personality traits. They are muscles. The source even mentions he adds another habit later listening to Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native while he goes for walks.
Reinforcing that daily drip of exposure.
Exactly. Small reps.
That is such an empowering way to frame it. You can't just magically decide to be perfectly productive for an entire week. If your focus muscle has completely atrophied from years of multitasking.
You just can't lift that weight yet.
Right. You have to undergo neuroplasticity. You have to physically rewire your brain to tolerate boredom and sustain attention.
Which means it's going to be uncomfortable.
Highly uncomfortable. But it completely changes the goal line. Time management, as Noah realizes through this process, is never about achieving a state of robotic perfection.
Thank goodness.
Right. It is strictly about building better habits. If you stumble on a Tuesday and spend an hour lost in your inbox, it's not a moral failing. You didn't ruin the system.
It's just a slip-up.
It's just a missed rep at the gym. You don't quit the gym because of one bad workout. You just get back to the small, consistent actions the next day.
So we've seen the mechanics of the struggle. We've seen how he used this daily language learning habit to literally rebuild his capacity for focus. But what is the actual payoff? What happens when these small, seemingly insignificant actions compound over time?
Well, the narrative jumps forward to give us exactly that data point.
Right. We skip ahead 2 weeks, just 14 days of strictly applying Emma's methods, picking 3 tasks, single tasking, keeping the phone away.
And the results for Noah are undeniable. He is finishing his core work significantly faster because he isn't losing hours to attention residue.
He's actually getting his brain back.
Yeah, and he feels a massive reduction in baseline stress. And the ultimate victory, for the first time in years, he finally has genuine, guilt-free free time.
I love that part. There is a moment described where he is just sitting quietly one evening. His phone isn't in his hand. He isn't agonizing over a to-do list. He just thinks about his day, and he is genuinely content.
It is the exact mirror opposite of the exhaustion and hollow frustration we saw him experiencing at the very beginning.
The next day, he goes back to Emma, and he repeats her own advice back to her, realizing he finally understands it in his bones. He says, "You're right. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters."
Such a powerful realization.
It really is. And that right there is the undeniable thesis we pull from all this. The foundational truth is that everyone, from the CEO to the intern, gets the exact same 24 hours in a day. We don't need more time.
Hoping for more time is a total fantasy.
Exactly. What we actually need is better focus, better boundaries, and better habits. The mandate is incredibly clear. Start small, plan the night before, ruthlessly choose what actually matters, and take action.
Which brings us to the ultimate diagnostic tool. To distill this entire deep dive into a single metric that you can use to evaluate yourself every single day, you just have to pause, look at whatever you are doing in that exact moment, and ask yourself, am I busy or am I productive?
Am I busy or am I productive? Are you actually moving the needle, or are you just making the fan on your internal web browser spin as loud as possible?
That's the question.
I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. And before you jump into your next task, I want to leave you with a thought experiment to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Look at your schedule for tomorrow. If you were suddenly forced by some extreme circumstance to limit your entire day tomorrow to just one single task that truly mattered, meaning you had to completely ignore every email, decline every call, and skip every minor chore, what would that one task be?
That's tough.
And more importantly, how much of your current daily busyness is just a highly convenient, socially acceptable excuse to avoid starting it?
That is the real challenge.
Until next time, stay focused on what matters most.